The New York Islanders fall to the LA Kings, but was this a loss that this team can build on? We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Islanders lose. The two-game winning streak is over, and yeah, that's disappointing. But you know, this loss to the LA Kings doesn't upset me that much. I'll explain why. The Islanders played pretty solid hockey. They're going up against the hottest team in the league, a team that was coming into the UBS Arena with a 5-game winning streak. A team that had given up a grand total of 7 goals in those last 5 games. A team that really kind of is hitting its stride right now. And yeah, the Islanders fell behind early. By the early part of the second period, they're down 2-0. But after a shaky first period where offensively they did nothing, the last 40 minutes of this game, the Islanders went toe-to-toe with the Kings, had their chances, and came up just short, losing 3-1 with the empty net goal by Mikey Anderson at the end. And there were just a lot of things, a lot of positives that you could take away from this game. By the end of the game, yeah, you know, the Islanders were still outshot 30-20. But by the end of the game, you had the feeling, and I haven't said this often this season. You know, so many people have said at different times, oh, if the Islanders just had Anthony Duclair and Matthew Barzal, things would be different. This team would be more, you know, in the thick of the playoff hunt. They probably would be a few points higher in the standings, but this game against the LA Kings was actually the kind of game where I would say that if the Islanders had Barzy and Duke all together on the top line, if Matthew Barzal and Anthony Duclair came back and were healthy and were playing up to the back of their hockey cards, the Islanders probably at least tie, if not win, this game. In the second period, and especially in the third, the Islanders had chance after chance after chance. I think they hit 2 or 3 posts. They had a couple of shots that just, you know, Darcy Kemper, who played well for the Kings, found the puck, even though he may not have seen the puck. They had some bad bounces in front of the goal where, you know, the Islanders had a player in front of the net but couldn't get to the loose puck. They were going up against a good, disciplined defensive team in the LA Kings. This was the kind of game where if you play the way the Islanders played last night in a 10-game stretch, you probably do something like 6-2-2 or 5-3-2, and you pick up points and you gain momentum and move up in the very tight Eastern Conference and Metropolitan Division standings. Here, First of all, Ilya Sorokin was really good. Did he go down a little too soon on one of those 2 goals? I think the Fiala goal, maybe. But overall, 27 saves on 29 shots, and a lot of those saves were spectacular. And especially early on, the Islanders did give up some of those odd man rushes, struggled in that first period on, all 3 zones, even though most of the period was spent in the Islanders zone, but they got it straightened out. And they righted the ship. They got the goal by Anders Lee in the second period to make it 2-1. And then they had 30 minutes and 13 seconds to get the equalizer, and they just couldn't put the puck in the net. It was there for the taking. They couldn't quite get it done. But you know what? You go up against a really good team, you give a good effort, and you come close. You come close. And I got to say this. Anders Lee. What a great bounce back season Lee has had. We are 30 games into this season right now, and Anders Lee has 13 goals. He had 20 all of last season. He is on pace for, he has a shot, if he continues to produce at this level, of a 30-goal season again. At the age of 34? Hats off right now to Anders Lee and what he accomplished. Lee scored the only goal for the Islanders, led the team. He had 6 of the team's 20 shots on goal. He was all around the net. He was doing the things that you need Anders Lee to do, because let's face this about Anders Lee. Okay? He's dedicated. He's hard-nosed. He is got a good hockey IQ. He's not a great skater. Never was, and now at 34, he's kind of lost half a step. And he already was kind of slow. But he's doing things to emphasize his strengths. He is playing with more intensity. He is playing with more determination. He is going to the net. He is screening. He is getting rebounds. He is getting tips. He is getting open down low and creating opportunities. The goal he scored, nice little turnaround play. Anders Lee is in there every night, leading by example. And look, you could say what you want about the talent or lack of talent around him and the injuries and everything else. This year, Anders Lee is leading the way a captain under these circumstances should be leading. And I just tip my hat to Anders Lee for what he's done through the first 30 games of this season. That being said, we are reminded again of the shortcomings of this team. Because while, if Anthony Duclair and or Matthew Barzal were in the lineup, the Islanders have a much better chance of actually tying or winning the game. But it also reminds us how many guys on this team just aren't finishers or just aren't getting to finish. And we need more from this forward group. Plain and simple. And, too often in this game, and it's something we've seen all season from the Islanders, you had zone time, you had pressure, you didn't get shots, let alone goals. You didn't get shots. Brock Nelson, no shots on goal in this game. Maxim Siplikov, 1. J.G. Pajot, 1. And then you have, your bottom 6 guys who typically just don't put shots on the board. Simon Holmstrom, 0. Pierre Engvall, 0. Kyle McLean, 0 shots on goal. The production, the effort, you know, when you get chances like that, somebody's got to finish. And it's not easy. You can't necessarily do that against this Kings team. Like I said, 7 goals allowed in their last 5 wins. Now it's 8 in 6. You're facing a good defensive team and a smart, disciplined defensive team playing their best defense. But I will say this. To make this team a contender, you need more than just getting Bo and Duke back. To make this team a contender, you need a lot more offensive juice on this roster, or you need the guys on this roster to do what they haven't been able to do all year, and that is finish. Entering last night's game, the Islanders were 29th in the league in shooting percentage, 9.1%. That number went down against the Kings. 9.1 out of every 100 shots the Islanders get on goal, 9 go in to the net. Over the course of a season, you need to be better than that if you want to be a contender. And it's one of the reasons the Islanders are not. But this game was mostly, except for the first period, smartly played. The effort was there. They did spend time in the last 40 minutes in the offensive zone. They cleared the puck a little better. They created chances. They just couldn't finish them. If this team is good and good enough to be a real playoff team, you build on a loss like this. This was a loss you can build on. You could say, we won 2 in a row. We played a solid game against a hot, talented hockey team. Now we've got 2 games against the team with the worst record in the league. Let's go get 4 points. Let's see if the Islanders are good enough to do that. Let's see if they can do it. This is a loss they can build on. Now they have to go do it. All right. We've got a lot more to get to. We still will have our hero and GOAT of last night's game. Little progress on the injury front. Plus, we had an Islander miss the game due to illness. We'll talk about that. We also have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a player who was acquired midway through the 74-75 season, who scored what may be the most important goal in Islanders history that did not win a Stanley Cup, and whose son later played for the New York Islanders. I think this is an easy one. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you could check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. And Islander fans, use your knowledge of hockey and the Islanders to place some exciting bets on FanDuel. Check out the odds for the next 2 games, a home and home with the Chicago Blackhawks. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, before this game even started, the Islanders find out that Scott Mayfield, he had an illness. He was listed as a game time decision, and the decision was no go. And look, hopefully Mayfield is ready by Thursday's game. But overall, you end up with both Grant Hutton and Dennis Cholowski in the lineup, and both of them acquitted themselves pretty well. Neither of them were minus in this game. And, Cholowski gave you 22 minutes plus, Hutton 16 and a half minutes plus. I think they, came through. Hudson Fasching and Semyon Varlamov were the other scratches. So again, Marcus Hogberg, the backup goalie, and again, before Thursday's game, and we will talk about this more on tomorrow's show, but before Thursday's game, if Semyon Varlamov is not available, I think you got to really seriously think about, whether you start Hogberg Thursday or Saturday, or Sunday rather. You got to figure out when to get him in and start a game, because you can't wear out Ilya Sorokin, who played really, really well. Hero and GOAT of the game. The hero I'm going to split. And I've mentioned both of these guys, and I think they both really deserve it. Anders Lee, as I mentioned, led the team in shots, scored the only goal, played a really solid game, and then Ilya Sorokin with the 27 saves. So those two split my hero of the game. And the GOAT of the game, I think, is easy too, and that's Isaiah George, unfortunately. And look, I'm a big Isaiah George fan. Everydayers, if you watch the show regularly, you know I have spoken highly of the potential of Isaiah George. But he had some brutal giveaways in the first period. And by, the middle of the second period, I don't know if he saw the ice much after that. So Patrick Waugh sending a message to Isaiah George. And again, I'm not worried. I am not worried. Isaiah George is 20 years old. He's a rookie. He's going to have games like this. It'll be interesting to see whether George sits Thursday or whether he plays, and how Patrick Waugh psychologically handles Isaiah George. Hopefully, George is out there and playing, but does he deserve maybe to sit for a game? It wouldn't bother me if he did. He didn't play well. And these are growing pains. This is what happens when rookies play a lot of hockey. Eventually, teams have film on them. They scout them. This was his 18th career NHL game. A 20-year-old rookie who only played, 3 or 4 games in the AHL before this. In 18 games, he has 3 assists, and he's only a -1 on a team that can't get out of its own way. I have been impressed with Isaiah George overall. I'm not worried, but yeah, he did not have a good game against the LA Kings. Hopefully, he bounces back, whether he plays Thursday, whether he plays in Chicago, and the next game after that, whatever it is, next time he's out there, I expect a better performance from Isaiah George. And you know what? I'll tell you this too. If he needs to go back to the minors for a little while, so be it. It's okay. This is a learning experience. He wasn't supposed to be here. Anything Isaiah George does at this point this year for the New York Islanders is a bonus. Got to also give a shout out, by the way, to Alexander Romanov. What a hit he delivered. Kyle Burrows took exception, and not only did Romanov have this beautiful, clean, open ice hit early in the game, but he drew a penalty and got the Islanders a power play. Now, don't get me started on the Islanders power play. It continues to be a problem, but boy, Alexander Romanov with that hit, I got to chime in and give him props. Now, the injury news. Yesterday, Tuesday, Anthony Duclair participated in the Islanders' morning skate for the first time since he was injured way back on October 19th. He did wear a non-contact jersey, so the orange non-contact jersey still there. but it's the next step. Adam Pelech, also wearing the non-contact jersey, he was out there Tuesday morning for the third consecutive morning skate. Patrick Waugh telling the media, seeing Duclair and Pelech in those orange jerseys, it's fun to have and shows that things are going well. I'm sure it's exciting for the guys as well. They're not back yet. They're probably still maybe next week, maybe. Obviously, you want to have them practice or do a morning skate full contact before you get them into a game, but getting closer. And that is what we want to see. Hold on. Help may just be on the way. All right, we have got more to discuss on today's show. We have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders, plus a great Islanders birthday of the day that remembers one of the greatest moments, and maybe the most important moment in New York Islanders history. We have got that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. Here's why you need to get started today. You can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks, and you'll get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win. The $50 is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers fun weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, where select player projections are discounted up to 25%. This week on Prize Picks, looking at the hockey board, Jack Hughes for more than 4 shots on goal, or Tammy Panarin for more than 1 assist. These are examples, so it's simple to make my picks, and I have fun with friends while potentially cashing out fast. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Becoming a fantasy hockey expert has never been this easy, and you can get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from hosts Steele and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Time for our weekly farm report, where we discuss all things Bridgeport Islanders. And look, I'm not going to lie, last week was a bit of a slog for Bridgeport. They played 3 games since our last farm report, and we do these almost every Wednesday during the season. Sometimes if there's big news happening or something else going on, we'll push it back or forward a day, but Wednesday is the day. Well, last Wednesday night, the Islanders faced off against the Hartford Wolfpack, and while Alex Jeffries scored on the power play in the second period, that was pretty much the only highlight at home for the Bridgeport Islanders. They fall 6-1 in this game. Alex Belzile with a hat trick for Hartford, and it just wasn't a very good game for Bridgeport. Then, a better effort coming on later in the week. Friday, the Islanders go to overtime, but still not good enough. The Springfield Thunderbirds beat them in OT by a final score of 5-4. Jakub Skarek, 32 saves in this one. No team was ever ahead by more than 1 goal in this game. Goal scorers for the Islanders: Chris Terry, William Dufour, Alex Jeffries, and Liam Foudy. A goal and an assist for Terry and Jeffries. So at least they had multiple point games. And then on Saturday, going up against the Providence Bruins, a 6-3 defeat. So the Islanders go 0-2-1 last week in Bridgeport. Brian Pino, Marshall Warren, and Chris Terry with the goals. 22 saves for Henrik Tikkanen, making his second start of the season for Bridgeport. But again, it was not enough. And the Islanders were up 2-0 in the first period, or at least were up by 2 goals. Could not hold on. So you look at the standings as of right now, Bridgeport 5-14-4. They are a distant 8th in the Atlantic Division of the AHL, 9 points behind the Lehigh Valley Phantoms and Hartford Wolfpack for 7th and 6th place, respectfully. And it is time for Bridgeport to try to wake up. Chris Terry remains the team's leading point producer. He has 20. 17 of those are assists. Brian Pino leads the team with 12 goals. He's right behind Terry with 19 points. Alex Jeffries, 5 goals, 15 points in 19 games, followed by Frederick Karlstrom with 8 goals and 12 points. Liam Foodie, 5 goals and 11 points. The leading defense scorer remains Samuel Bolduc, although Wyatt Newpower now has tied him. Bolduc, 3 goals, 8 points. Newpower, 2 goals, 8 points. Travis Mitchell, 4 goals, 3 assists, so he's 1 point behind among defensemen. Matthew Maggio, still 1 goal, 7 points in 21 games. William Dufour, 3 goals, 6 points in 20. So again, this team struggling to score goals right now. As far as the schedule is concerned, Bridgeport back in action. They have a home and home with the Providence Bruins this week, starting tonight at home. 7 o'clock Eastern time start. Friday night, a 7:05 road game in Providence against the Bruins. And then Sunday, a 3 o'clock in the afternoon matinee against the Laval Rocket. That game at Bridgeport. So if you want to see some of the Islanders' future stars playing today, head on up to Bridgeport and catch a Bridgeport Islanders game, or you could watch all of those games on AHL TV. Hopefully this week will be a little better for the Bridgeport Islanders. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. One of my favorite all-time Islanders, who is unfortunately not with us anymore. But today would have been the 83rd birthday of former Islanders winger J.P. Parise. The native of Smooth Rock Falls, Ontario, 5'9", 180 pounds. Made his NHL debut with the Bruins in 1965-66, later played for the Maple Leafs briefly, but really became a regular with the Minnesota North Stars starting in their first season. Had 3 20-plus goal seasons for the North Stars, including 72 points in 74 games in 1969-70. But joined the Islanders along with Jude Drouin in 2 trades with the North Stars a few days apart in February of 75 rather. And boy, did he finish strong for the Islanders. 30 points, 14 goals in 41 games. And then in the playoffs that year, where the Islanders went on a magical run, 8 goals, 16 points in 17 postseason games. Parise scored 22 goals in 75-76, 25 goals the following year in 76-77. Was traded midway through the 77-78 season to the Cleveland Barons and then finished his career with the Minnesota North Stars in 78-79. Played in 890 career NHL games, 238 goals, 594 points, 706 penalty minutes. Add 27 goals, 58 points in 86 playoff games, a lot of those with the Islanders. He later was an assistant coach for the Minnesota North Stars, but unfortunately we lost JP a few years back, but he did score, in my mind, what was the most important goal in Islanders history, with the exception, obviously, of Bobby Nystrom's Cup winner in 1980. We go back to April 11th, 1975. Islanders Rangers at Madison Square Garden, game 3 of this preliminary round series. Third and deciding game. Yeah, the playoff series back then, the opening round, best of 3. And this is the Islanders' first ever deciding game in a playoff. First ever time they faced elimination in franchise history. And the Islanders went up 3-0. Clark Gillies scoring in the first period. A couple of goals by Dennis Potvin in the second. One power play, one shorthanded. And it's 3-0 Islanders. But Ed Jockman, the Islanders goalie, went after Gary Howitt late in the second period after replacing Gilles Villemure, and the momentum turned. Bill Fairburn scored twice for the Rangers in the third, once on the power play. Steve Vickers tied the game for the Rangers with 6 minutes, 19 seconds left. And the Rangers poured on the pressure in the third period, but could not beat Billy Smith. And then in overtime, 11 seconds in, half the crowd at Madison Square Garden hadn't even gotten back to their seats yet after trying to get a beer and a and a hot dog in between periods. And Drew Drouin found J.P. Parise all alone in front of the net. He beat Eddie Jockman, and the Islanders eliminated the Rangers and began that magical playoff run. And in my book, Ice Wars, so many guys on both teams that I spoke to mentioned how things changed both on and off the ice for both teams after that goal by J.P. Parise. So J.P. Parise, whose son Zach later played for the New York Islanders, he is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers will be back tomorrow. We will preview Thursday's game against the Chicago Blackhawks. Hopefully, we'll have some more injury updates and a lot more, so make sure you join us for that. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, shoot us an email. LockedOnIslanders@gmail.com is the email address. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I'm live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. And it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.